It's a beautiful day and a fine time for healing. Podcast host Randi Fine, a narcissistic abuse expert and the author of the groundbreaking book Close Encounters of the Worst Kind and the captivating memoir Cliff Edge Road, invites you into her sanctuary, a place where your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being are all that matter. So put your feet up, relax, and enjoy today's show. And now, here's Randi.
Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to listen to A Fine Time for Healing. This is Randi Fine, and today I am going to be doing a show about narcissistic abuse and trauma. I have not done a live show in a few months because I've had some taped versions that I thought were really good for you, and I thought you might really enjoy them. But today I'm back. It is the second Friday of the month. That's when I do my show. And I will take calls. So if you have any questions to ask me, it doesn't have to be directly related to what I'm talking about. But if you have any questions or things you'd like to share with me or things that you think other listeners might appreciate hearing, you can call in. And the number is 424-220-1801. I'll say it again. 424-220-1801. Today I'm going to be talking about the deep traumatic effect of narcissistic abuse with narcissistic personality disorder abuse. And there are actual physiological reasons for why you probably are finding it difficult to rise above the pain you are suffering. What I tell people is, what happens is when you're suffering from something like this, what you know intellectually, meaning what you've read about, what you've listened to, any forums that you've been on, what you know intellectually is not what you feel emotionally. And by that I mean you can learn all of this with your logical brain and yet not be able to resolve the pain. And this is something that happens to all of us who have been through this kind of abuse, narcissistic abuse, deep trauma. When this happens, what do? The first thing we do is we go to ourselves and beat ourselves up. And this is what we say to ourselves. I'm intelligent. I understand. I'm accomplished. And I know all this. Why can't I do it? Why can't I fix this? And then what they do is they beat themselves up and say, I just feel so stupid. I should be over this already. So today, I'm going to talk to you about the reason why this happens. And as I said, there is an actual physiological reason why you are finding it difficult to rise above the pain you are suffering. So let me talk about PTSD or complex PTSD. And when we commonly think of veterans returning from deployment, but they are not the only ones who experience trauma. Many people tend to live with these difficulties by suppressing or ignoring or self-medicating, maybe with drugs or alcohol or other forms of addiction. Some people use pornography watching or gambling or computer games to live with the difficulties of the trauma they've experienced. And in many cases, people living with these difficulties feel as though this is a normal state of being, or they simply do not know how they can resolve their difficulties. Therefore, lots of people are living their lives at less than their full potential, less vitality, less enjoyment, and less happiness. If gone untreated, trauma can affect the vital functioning part of the brain, which is the brainstem, and lead to autoimmune system-related diseases like migraines, diabetic conditions, endometriosis, a variety of illnesses, including cancer and eventually dementia. And what's unique about PTSD trauma is that noticeable symptoms do not show up right away, although subconscious limiting beliefs develop immediately and influence a person's life negatively. Maybe 10, 20, 30 years after the trauma or when more severe symptoms are noticed. And the symptoms that you might be having are nightmares, depression, anxiety, insomnia. And these can impact your work performance, cause relationship breakups, have an effect on your jobs or your ability to keep jobs. And even then, when this happens, most people don't do anything about the symptoms because they don't know where to get help. It's common to not make connections between what's happening today and what happened in your past. And therefore, you may waste many years searching for the cause and finally finding a licensed trauma therapist. And whether or not that helps depends on the therapist that you choose. Now, the work that I do with narcissistic personality disorder abuse is all trauma-based. I'm not a trauma therapist per se, I'm a coach. But what I help people do is to begin to integrate what they know intellectually and what they feel emotionally. And this is very difficult for the average person to do on their own, because if you've been the victim of narcissistic abuse, you have been programmed. You've been brainwashed over a long period of time. And you're not really sure that what you're experiencing really happened to you. You're not really sure that it can get better, and you're not sure why you can't fix it. And like I said, this isn't something that happens quickly, immediately after the trauma. Yes, you will have flashbacks and nightmares and things like that. You may have those. But as far as when it really comes to a breaking point, when you are experiencing so many problems that they are impacting every aspect of your life. And the coaching that I've been doing for years with people is very, very effective. I really cater, each person that I work with, I use a different approach based on what their needs are, what they tell me, what I hear them saying, what they've been through, what they want to accomplish in their life. And generally, the process that I use is very efficient and works pretty quickly, probably 3 to 6 months before the person is really on their own and ready to move forward. And when I say that, I mean that ready to move forward, meaning that they now have the tools that they need. Should there be any situations, should they come across any discomfort in their mind and body or psychological functioning or any of those things, they know, because they've been given the tools through working with me to be able to deal with anything that comes to them. And it is that ability that you have to know what to do in any given situation that allows you to move forward in life with comfort and feeling safe. Often people who have suffered narcissistic abuse feel very unsafe and very afraid to integrate themselves back into life because they don't know how to ward off all that could potentially come at them. And this is absolutely true. If you don't have the tools, it is very frightening. And you know what? It's not unreasonable to feel this way, because predators abound among us. They walk among us in droves. This is an epidemic. there's an epidemic of predatory people walking this earth. And they're scary because you can't pick them out. And you don't recognize them initially. You don't recognize them until almost it's too late, when the effects and damages have been done to you. So through working with me, you will learn how to deal with whatever comes at you. You will also know how to distinguish, how to determine someone who is predatory upon you versus a nice person that you don't have to worry about. There are very, very clear signs and signals to look for, because narcissists, they all operate the same in the way that they con you and suck you in, take you hostage. If you've been the victim of childhood narcissistic abuse, it can be even more scary, because this has been ingrained in you since day one. This person, your narcissistic parent, and perhaps the enabling parent, has changed the way you would normally function as an individual. As a matter of fact, what they do is they take away your natural ability to function as an individual. They deprive you of that ability, which is why when you get to be an adult, and most people that you know are soaring and growing in their careers, you find yourself plummeting, and you're just trying to figure things out, and you go through one bad relationship after another, and you don't know why, and you think maybe it's the people. But ultimately what you discover is you have a pattern. And the pattern is something that has been instilled in you a very, very long time ago. And until you correct that, it's very difficult to have healthy relationships. Beyond that, to raise healthy children. Because if you don't correct what you don't know, what you have not processed, then you cannot teach your children to be healthy, functioning people in this world. It may seem that you can, but you'll find as they become adults, you're going to see some of the same patterns that you have. Because children pay attention to what we do. They pay attention to how we act. They pay attention to how we process things. They pay attention to how we use our boundaries. And if you don't have them, they will not have them, no matter how much you tell them. So what I want to tell you today is I have recently been certified in a process that I think is absolutely amazing. I feel really, really honored to have been able to learn this process. So I'll tell you about how this process started. So it's called neurobilateral processing, or NBP, which is trademarked, and it is Dr. Michio's patented technique in engaging both the left and right brain in processing traumatic memories. Dr. Michio has been using NBP in practice for the past 8 years to treat trauma, and she has a 99.9 success rate with her own clients. And it is her goal to help you discover your ikigai, a Japanese concept that is your reason for being, that gives your life meaning, purpose, and happiness. So let me tell you what this actually is. And the reason that I feel so honored to have learned this is because I was able to be part of her pilot program for getting this out. She desires to build up a community of healers so that more people can get the help that they so desperately need. Right now, she is the only one doing it, and those who have been involved in her pilot program, and I'm one of the only practitioners actually that has been involved in her pilot program, so I may be the only other person doing this. But this will take hold, and other therapists and coaches and others will be doing this so that more people who have experienced trauma can get the relief that they need. And so as part of the pilot program, this was the first time that she's ever trained. And I finished this a few weeks ago. I'm now certified to do this process. And I feel like, I'm sort of leading the way for other professionals to do this. And I want to offer it to you. If it's something that I think would work for you, I want to offer it to you, and let me tell you why. Because neurobilateral processing can change behavioral conditioning and limiting beliefs such as I'm inadequate, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable. And unlike some psychotherapy methods that take weeks or months to facilitate changes, this technique is quick and efficient. It really, really is. And when I say that, the process is something that almost seems like I'm doing magic to you. It is so non-threatening. It is so gentle and easy. And unlike other therapies for trauma, neurobilateral processing, you do not have to live in the trauma for any period of time. And that's really special. That's really wonderful, which is why she created this, because she's a trauma therapist, and she looked at all the other trauma therapies that were out there. And with every one, she realized that it involved living in the trauma for a period of time in order to heal it. And she didn't think that that was the way to treat trauma. So this process, you start off with a memory, but we very, very quickly erase it and erase the feelings associated with it. And by the end of the session, you feel great. And it is a cumulative process. So in other words, we work on one traumatic memory each session. And through these weekly sessions, a lot of what you're experiencing that is affecting your life in a negative way or in a way that you wish it wouldn't, all of a sudden those changes begin to happen. And so we do this one memory at a time. So neurobilateral processing, or NBP, is Dr. Michio's patented technique in engaging both the left and right brain in the processing of traumatic memories. It combines techniques from complex disciplines, including yogic breathing, visualization, EFT tapping, EMDR, and integrating the left and right sides of the brain functions. The reason that we incorporate all of these in the procedure, in the process, is so that you as the client can relax and be brought down to a subconscious level where you don't experience the memory as painful as it may have been otherwise. Normally, our memories are resolved by the involvement of both right and left sides of the brain. However, the memories of highly emotional situations or trauma get stuck in the limbic part of the right side of the brain. This is the side of the brain which controls emotions and survival responses and remain subconscious. So these things remain subconscious, and they don't get the benefit of the left brain's rational and logical processing functions. Neurobilateral processing stimulates both sides of the brain and allows the disturbing subconscious memory to be processed by the two sides of the brain, and it is finally resolved rationally. So painful experiences are not stored in the cognitive part of the brain, the left brain. And you may have flashes of images from time to time. The left brain is perceived as the logical side of the brain. It relies on facts. It is reality-based, follows an order of pattern. The left side of the brain is the logical, realistic, objective, analytical side of the brain. But these traumas get stuck often in the right side of the brain, the limbic system, and therefore have not been resolved. The right side of the brain does not use conventional mechanisms or reasoning for analyzing thoughts the way that the left side does. It is an integrative brain and is the center of nonverbal visual special functions. It specializes in feelings and sensations, in spatial abilities, as well as visual and sound abilities, but not those related to language. The right side of the brain is where we feel, conceive, intuit. And so the neurobilateral process integrates the left and right brains by stimulating both sides of the nervous system, and this is done through tapping. Now, these memories don't disappear, but memories really shouldn't disappear because our past is meant to teach us. It is meant for us to learn from. It is not meant for us to live in, and that's the difference. When you're suffering from this kind of trauma, you are living in the past. You're living in the pain of the past, and that's not really what you want to be doing if you can help it. You want to be using what you learned from the past and helping yourself in the future. But you're finding it very difficult to do this because, as I said, what you know intellectually is not what you feel emotionally, and you're stuck. So I hope my explanation is helping you to understand why this happens. So we don't want the memories to disappear. We want the painful emotions attached to them to disappear. And that's what this process does. It helps you erase the emotion associated with the memory. And this is done by integrating both sides of the brain. So these are emotional traumatic blocks that we carry within us. They become embedded on a cellular level, and they keep us from the joy and success in our lives that we know we deserve. Some of the benefits of neurobilateral processing, I'll just name a few. It helps you perform at higher levels of energy and enthusiasm. It increases your productivity. It increases confidence and competence. It increases income due to increased confidence and productivity. Neurobilateral processing contributes more to your community, company, or organization, helps you contribute more. It helps you make a difference in the world. It helps you to be more loving, compassionate, and caring in your relationships. It helps you to care more for yourself and others. It helps you to create a meaningful, purposeful, and fulfilling life. It helps to give you freedom to create the life you've dreamed of and to help you let go of old pain. This is a big name, neurobilateral processing, and it sounds like this big technique and this very invasive technique, and it is not that at all. It is absolutely gentle and harmless and very positive. Very, very positive. The way this works is absolutely magical. And as I said, I'm really honored to be able to offer this to you. And the way that I offer it to you is we start with what's called a discovery session. And through this discovery session, I'm going to send you a questionnaire that asks you very specific questions. And during this discovery session, we're going to go through what your hopes and dreams are, what's keeping you stuck, what your previous experiences have been, what symptoms you're having, what you would like to feel in the future, a lot of things that are going to encompass this discovery session, and it is absolutely free. I do this because I want to make sure that you're a good candidate for this process. And if you are, then what we do is we decide how many sessions will be best for you to start out with. It doesn't mean that we won't do more, but we may do 4, we may do 6. And they're weekly. They're done weekly, so you can't do them every day. You do them weekly. And then as the session ends, you are integrating all that has changed in your brain, and you're allowing that to happen. And then the next week, we start on something new. If you don't have a lot of memories, that's okay. If you have one memory to start with, that's all we need. And it should be an emotionally charged memory. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in a snapshot. So it shouldn't be a long-term thing. It should be something that happened that you can put into a snapshot and actually see that moment of that trauma. And then we're going to work to erase the emotions from it. And that's really the first thing we do. We just erase the emotions from it. And as I said, I know it sounds really simplistic and magical, but it truly is. Dr. Michio is brilliant. She created this process. She was a long-term trauma survivor. And she had a very hard time finding ways to recover from her trauma. She had a mother who had not narcissistic personality disorder, but another personality disorder. And she suffered tremendously at the hands of her mother. And so she really wanted, her goal here is to really, really help people. And so she created this brilliant method. And you won't hear much about it now because, as I said, she's the only one doing it. And I'm doing it. But soon you will. Soon you'll hear about this and it will be more widespread. So sorry about that door slamming. So it's a great time for you to take advantage or even explore the possibility that this would be for you. And if you are an adult child of narcissistic abuse, you definitely have traumas to work on. If you are having flashbacks, if you are having nightmares where things just keep happening, you keep seeing things, the goal is to get rid of those. You should not have to live like that. It's not about tolerating them. It's about releasing them. And I'm so devoted to helping all of you heal your narcissistic abuse. And I really, really look forward to working with you and really giving you a better quality of life. And it's great that I know how to do this now. So I've added this to my practice. I definitely do narcissistic personality disorder abuse coaching. But now I'm doing neurobilateral processing. So the combination of the two work beautifully. And if you'd like to do a discovery session, if you go to this show page for this show, you will, there's a link to it. And I'm trying to see, I put a link on the show. Okay, so it's, let me see if I can click on it. Okay, so you go to randifine.com, RANDIFINE.com /fine, FINE, dash coaching, COACHING, dash counseling, COUNSELING -4 slash, I know it's a long one, and I'll give you an easier way to do this, slash neuro, NEURO dash by, BI dash lateral, LATERAL dash processing, P-4-healing-trauma. Now, there's a much easier way to do this. You can just go to randifine.com, go to Executive Services, and then you'll see the option of neurobilateral processing. And you can click on that, and you can learn more about it. And you can also, from that point, book a free discovery session with me to see if this is something that will work for you. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. If anybody has any questions, you can call in now at 424-220-1801. If not, I'm going to leave the show right now and leave you with that information. And I really want you to process this. I really want you to go back and listen to this. And I do want you to go to my website, randifine.com, and go to Executive Services and go to neurobilateral processing so that you can see for yourself